Hello, my name's John Peel, and I've been listening to records ever since my dad gave me his record collection, the Savoy Orpheans, Charlie Coons, that sort of thing, when he came back from the Second World War. Since then, I've had loads of favourites over the years: Frankie Lane, Gene Vincent, Dwayne Eddy, the Yardbirds, Otis Redding, Captain Beefheart, of course, Country Joe and the Fish, Pink Floyd, Little Feat, the Faces, the Undertones, Lee Perry, Ranking Trevor, Diblo Dibala. But the Fall have given me more pleasure over a longer period of time than any other band. And when people ask me why, I always say gnomically, they're always different, they're always the same. I'm not sure that means anything, but it sounds reasonably good. They're just the Fall, the band by which in our house all the others are judged.
We are the Fall, we were spinning, we were stepping. Come out, as in from heaven. The difference between you and us is that we have brains, cause we're Northern White crap, but we talk back.
The Northern White crap that talks back. This was how Marquis Smith announced the Fall to the disbelieving punk audiences in the spring of '77. Using a mixture of art school nihilism and working class slang, Smith quickly established himself as a natural innovator. His ordinary appearance was perceived as an anti-fashion statement, immediately setting him apart from the numerous punk copyists of the era. Smith's self-confidence, backed by obvious intelligence, guaranteed him a constant flow of column inches and front cover stories in the music press. The Fall could never belong to trend or clique. They were out on their own, and 17 years later, still are. As most punk bands fell by the wayside due to lack of any real talent or ideas, the Fall, fueled by Smith's vision and work ethic, carved out a major cult following across the world. Like the Velvets in the 60s, they became the seminal underground band of the time.
I'm totally wired, son. Totally wired. Totally wired. I'm totally wired, son. Can't you see? It's totally wired.
Unaffected by the musical fads and fashions of the 80s, Smith continued on his own course, drawing inspiration from literature, art, cinema and a host of diverse musical influences, from the avant-garde of Germany's Can to late 60s American bubblegum.
To be honest, I don't relate to other groups. We never have. I'm coming round to this again. I mean, maybe I got lost a couple of years ago, but it sticks out more now than it ever does, you know, it ever did.
I'm totally wired, totally wired, totally wired, totally biased, totally wired.
It still stands to this day, you know, all the musicians in the Fall. I don't have any musos in the group. I never have had, you know. Every musician is self-taught and or a non-musician.
You don't have to be weird to be wired. You don't have to be a dyed-hair punk, funk, shit, pop, fuck, suck, tick-tock, patter. You don't have to be strange to be strangled. When the going gets weird, the weird turn pro, so I am totally wired.
I always think I wouldn't have formed the group if I related to anybody. I don't want to be anybody. I don't want to be David Bowie. I don't want to be anybody. I wouldn't have formed the group if I wanted to be anybody. It doesn't interest me.
Could you be happy without the group?
Yeah. I'd be quite happy being a bus conductor.
Would you?
No, not really. I don't have any truck with musicians at all.
Yeah.
I don't like guitarists. I don't like bass players, and I don't like drummers. I don't like keyboard players. mean, that's why the Fall were formed, you know. It's like just nothing good around, you know. Mm. But I've had classical musicians in the group and that.
Sure, yeah.
I've had accomplished musicians, you know. But they always say to me, you know, like Rogers, who used to be in the group, he was like from the London Symphony Orchestra, he said, you know, the great thing about the Fall was that you have to unlearn everything.
Smith's tendency towards producing the unusual led the Fall into esoteric areas untried by any comparable rock act. The band's alliance with modern ballet dancer Michael Clarke flourished in two Mark Smith plays, Hey Luciani, a drama based on the alleged murder of Pope John Paul, and I Am Curious Orange, a colourful historical musical. The Fall took the plays onto the stages of Sadler's Wells, the Barbican and the Edinburgh Festival. The resulting mixture of critical acclaim and confusion gained Smith regular coverage in broadsheet arts pages.
You'd be surprised with what people are fans of the Fall, you know, it's painters and all that. The bloke who does our covers, you know, his paintings are in the Louvre, you know, in Paris, you know.
Yeah.
I've never heard of him myself, but he does the covers for nothing, man. That's unbelievable. A lot of people paint to the Fall.
Yeah, I can imagine that. But that goes right back to the early days.
People write novels to the Fall.
Yeah.
The guy who did Silence of the Lambs wrote it, you know, it's like,
sure.
You know, people like that, strange people.
Please! I gotta get out of here! Catherine! The other officers will be here any minute now!
That guy who wrote Silence of the Lambs, Thomas Harris, was such a fan of the band that he proved instrumental in placing the dark rumblings of the early Fall track Hit Priest under the film's terrifying climax. It was to become one of the most famous suspense sequences in Hollywood history. Smith was brought up and still lives in the Prestwich district of Salford. This strangely exotic neighbourhood boasts an unusually diverse mixture of class, culture and religion. The local architecture, financed by money from the textile boom, is often a vision of decayed grandeur, casting long dark Gothic shadows across the pavements. This evocative imagery, complete with religious and satanic overtones, deeply affected Smith and became manifest within the band's music and artwork. Oddly enough, the Americans, and in particular the Californians, found no difficulty in relating to the Fall's stark roots.
We've got a good following in California, believe it or not. Massive. Fanatical.
Are sometimes American audiences more devoted in the sense that they'll accept everything you say, or will they challenge things? Or
it's funny, man. America's made up of, like, you know, you've taken on 20 different countries there, in one country.
Yeah.
For instance, like we went to Cleveland and they hated our guts, you know, which I was very proud of.
Why? What's the problem with Cleveland? Is it?
Well, you know, that's where all them fucking grunge bands are from. You know, everybody's got long hair like this, you know.
They set the
fucking loud guitars and all that. They fucking hated our guts, you know.
Yeah.
That's great.
Could you live in America?
No. Definitely not.
You not enjoy it?
I've lived in Chicago for a while now.
That's interesting you should say that. Chicago is one place that, you know, I could sort of see as a parallel with Edinburgh or something like that.
Chicago is very like Manchester now, actually.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Guns going off every night. Same thing.
But not Los Angeles?
No way. Could not live in Los Angeles for all the money in the fucking world.
A lot of artists...
like Billy Idol and all that, yeah.
Well, no. People like Leonard Cohen and people like that, so they live there because they feel as though they're on the edge, and it's like an inspirational place to live.
Yeah, it's fucking boring, most boring town in the world, Los Angeles. Most boring city I've ever been to in my life. And I've stayed there months on end, in the best bits as well. Sunset, Hollywood, Santa Monica. Horrible. Everybody gets up at 6 o'clock, goes to bed at 9:30. If you have a beer, you're a tramp. You know, can't walk anywhere. It's horrible. Never had us tried to get on the bus in LA. Steve wouldn't let them on. They want to lift home, can you believe this?
Yeah, I can.
They want to lift home, they're fucking tramps, man. Can you believe that? You know, what's his wife called, that actress? She fucking stood outside the bus when we came on the gig, like this.
The Fall's Paradox was highlighted by their biggest hit single to date, a bizarre cover of the Motown classic Ghost in My House. As if to confound the critics, this lightweight single was released just at the point when the band had begun to suffer from an unfair image of doomy introversion.
I think what you got to take into consideration is I have to try a bit harder. I have to push myself a lot harder because, you know, the Fall is basically making uncommercial music, so you have to try that bit harder. A lot of people don't grasp that. You know what I mean? We never had any music in our house. So. My dad was really against pop music and that.
Was it?
Yeah, we didn't have a record player till I was like 14.
Right.
And we never had Radio 1 on. No.
So the only music.
So when I was about 11 or 12, people talking about the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, I didn't understand any of it. I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. It's more into football and all that. If somebody breaks in your house, you can nick my stereo and nick my CD, but if they nick my can opener, you know, I get really mad.
Throughout their history, the Fall have been courted by artists wishing to collaborate with them and gain credibility points by association. Mostly, such advances have been bluntly refused. But the oddest approach of all, perhaps, came from British comedian Vic Reeves, another long-term Fall fanatic.
He came in the dressing room in London with his manager and the man with the stick and fucking and Rob and all that. And I like Vic, he's all right. He came in and he said, "Oh, I'd like the Fall to back me up on this. I'm so dizzy and all this. Give you £30,000 and all that." So I went, "Well, just talk to the lads," I said, you know. They went, "Oh." Steve went, "Well, I don't know." He says, "What about you, Craig? Would you play guitar?" He says, "No, I'm too busy." And this Scottish guy attacked Vic Reeves because he stepped on his violin. It's funny on the road, you know, it's just funny. People go in the dressing room, they don't realise the Fall are actually really like that. You know, it's not an act.
You mean as
No, it's very funny, you know, like in Paris, you know, you get all these intellectuals coming in, like women, you know, models and all that, you know. Like Carl's drawing pictures of like potato men with Carlos, the Mongo. They don't actually realise the Fall are for real.
Best of pharmacist.
Mark's constant flow of reactionary rhetoric, which often scaled hilarious peaks of political incorrectness, continued to bemuse and entertain journalists and readers alike. Regarded by left-field editors as always good for a quote, Smith played the music press game to full effect, often exposing the many contradictions of the music industry.
Must be the only group in the world that throws groupies out of fucking dressing rooms. I mean, I can't believe that.
But you've done things like that all right down the line, haven't you?
But mostly they're in the right, you know, because you got to concentrate on your show. You know what I mean? You know, drug dealers, everything, we just throw them out. Steve and Craig, we just throw them out.
Don't invite them back in afterwards.
If anybody does, they get a lot of torment. If any member of the band does, just fucking give them Rick. So we keep together, you know. You know, women and drugs break bands up.
Yeah.
Think about it.
During the late 80s so-called Manchester explosion, a time when the city came under the spotlight of the international music media and was universally touted as the musical place to be, Mark characteristically chose to avoid the whole media hype circus and decided to relocate to Edinburgh, only returning when the bubble had burst and the whole thing fell apart.
They're coming out of the woodwork now, aren't they? Now the Manchester scene's collapsed.
Seems to be, yeah.
Oh, very much.
Yeah, I mean, that Manchester scene...
The Smiths are fucking coming out of the woodwork, aren't they? It's all collapsed.
That whole Manchester thing, I mean, you stayed sensibly aloof from all that. But I mean, do you think anything positive came out of it?
No.
Right, fair enough. No, seriously, I mean, at the time, did you enjoy it at all?
At the time, no. I went to Scotland. The student population in Manchester has increased by 260%.
Yeah.
They ruined all the town.
Yeah, well,
you look at if you go into a club in town now, you look if you find a Mancunian.
Yeah.
But it used to be quite cool. That's what I used to like about it.
Yeah. Funny.
And Morrissey's like glorifying Salford and all that. He don't fucking know Salford from the back of his fucking bloody arse, does he?
As I sit and stare at all of England's songs, I tell you something. I wish I was in Edinburgh.
My grandfather was brought up in Glasgow, you see. He's not Scottish, but he was. My dad was in the Black Watch and all that.
Right. So you felt some sort of sense of hope?
No, I feel very comfortable. Glasgow, Edinburgh, always have.
Just wanna be in Edinburgh. How I wish I was in Edinburgh.
Smith's paternal attitude towards the false shifting membership reflected the streak of proletariat work ethic he had inherited from his father. The result was a band whose on-the-road attitude seemed noticeably lacking in rock and roll cliches.
No, I'm not ashamed. I like a beer. You know, I don't think there's anything fucking. I think the worst thing is when people drink under the table. To be quite frank, nothing worse than a secret drinker. I'm not ashamed of it.
No.
You always get that in the papers, you know, like Mark is drowning in his fucking sea of Boddingtons. You know what I mean? I've seen bands, they fucking drink Jack Daniels. They drink bottles of fucking Jack Daniels in the fucking carrier bags. You know, fucking. In the suitcases. If you drink, you fucking put it on the table, man. That's why I was brought up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you could take it a step.
Bloody, they're going on, they don't drink, they're all bloody taking heroin and fucking all the rest of it.
Yeah.
It's crap, man.
Yeah.
If you drink in the open, you don't become an alcoholic. Now, I'm from a builder's family, you know, my dad was like, well, my granddad was like that as well, you know, he used to, like, employ about 8 plumbers, you know, and it's like, when he could have just done it on his own, you know. It's just like, it's just a mentality. It's a work ethic.
Yeah.
I'd rather see people working, man. It's not a socialist ethic or anything, I just, there's nothing better than it, you know.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than taking somebody off an housing estate and giving them bloody work to do in a group. See the light in their eyes, they'll do it for nothing.
Sure. Yeah.
The amount of people, record companies and people and agents and managers who said to me, go solo.
Yeah.
And you could have 7 times more money than what you're earning now. and you've got, you know, you've got everything on a plate. I mean, the amount of people, wives, everything, said that you get everything on a plate, you know, and it's like, well, I'm saying it's not. That's not what it's about, you know. You couldn't replace Stephen Hanley, you know, that sound. A session musician couldn't do that.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sometimes I like a regular job, you know.
You envy people that go to work every
Sometimes I miss being at Clark, you know.
Yeah.
I do actually. Coming home at 6 o'clock and just having your tea and fucking forgetting all about it.
Yeah.
Because I work too hard, really. I work like 18 hours a day, believe it or not.
Yeah, I do believe it, yeah. But you used to work as a clerk, didn't you? In a shipping company or too?
I used to be a docker, yeah, as well. And I was a clerk.
You enjoy that?
Very much. Loved it.
Is it something you fell into?
Yeah.
It's like a job came up.
It's the biggest sky in the bloody world, being a docker. Did anything. From 10 till 12, go to the pub, come back at 3. A bit like a fall, really.
Despite many forays onto the stadium circuit, the band have always been at their most comfortable and most potent when performing in a small club. As if to stress this, instead of opting for one big Manchester show, they chose to play 6 nights in 2 of the city's most intimate venues.
There's a slip road up right ahead, leading to the Agrarian. But I'm city born and bred, too many coffins in my head, just a well-read fun peasant. But you just think a countryman would understand, the devil makes work for idle hands. M5, 6, 7 p.m. M5, 6, 7 p.m. And the man who pretends he knows it all is destined to a mighty fall. Gets into your house with cheer, then proceeds to take all you've got to offer. This is not an autobahn, it's an evil roundabout that leads to the highway, and you'll never see good trains again. In the late 60s, my daddy said to me, you'll never see trams and clubs again. Now
Marky Smith's an enigma. I think his history, and I don't know much about him. I've never seen the band. This is a first for me.
Well, I mean, you could come out with all sorts of cliches that, you know, they don't sell out and stuff like that. But I mean, I'd say the basic thing about it is they don't conform to sort of like verse, verse, chorus, verse, verse.
Yeah.
I mean, how many bands? I mean, every band does that, but the fall don't.
M5, 6, 7 p.m. M5 to the country, straight ahead.
We've been all over Europe watching the band. South of Spain. Alex been to America watching them. It's just fun to be seen. That'd be great.
This is not a highway to hell. It's just too many people are unwell. M5, 6, 7 p.m.
They don't offer you things on a plate. I think that was the thing that first attracted us about.
I think like the hard work, but I think it's worthwhile in the end. Sticking with them.
Basic roots of rock and roll music. I think that's the thing that I like about them, and that they're very Manchester. It's a very Manchester thing. It's an attitude. I think it's an attitude thing.
Yeah.
They're not about. They're not impressive. They're. Yeah. It's a very kind of strong attitude thing.
In 1994, a time when many of his contemporaries are making failed comebacks or writing flabby biographies, Smith remained as fresh and productive as any time in his career. Ironically, as the Fall awaited the release of their 18th album, The Middle Class Revolt, Smith made his debut appearance on Top of the Pops, providing guest vocals on the Inspiral Carpets hit, I Want You. His mystique remains intact, despite making a blasé appearance at London's ICA, when the novelist Michael Bracewell attempted to interview him before a live audience. After 37 minutes, Smith abruptly departed, with the cursory remark, "Mind if I split?" The last word on the Fall, it seems, can only belong to Marquis Smith.
Go on, man, it's rock and roll, you know, it's all about the fucking abuse of instruments, it's not about playing instruments. That's why music's so boring. Because it's... every record you hear, it's just like so well produced and that. But the blokes playing it, they've got no imagination of a flea, you know.
Now, fly direct to post office box. You get a doubt and notion, but you will soon recover. No longer undercover, branch out into complete disorder. You gotta be cheerful hearted. There's at least 15 ways to leave your mail. Get a flat on a magazine. Get your